She met his gaze, her tears blurring her vision as she begged for mercy. Please ask your gods to release my friend. I promise I'll never cross paths with you again. Please let him go, she pleaded desperately. In an instant, his hand around her surged through her as his face closer, his voice dripping with menace. I'm sure if I catch you playing with me again, he threatened, his grip forcing her to. Did you understand? He growled. She nodded frantically, tears streaming down her cheek. I'll never cross paths with you again. Please let my friend go, she pleaded, her voice barely a whisper. His grip once more before he released her, leaving her hands clutching at her throat as she coughed and wheezed. Stop it, he commanded, halting his guards. Closing the distance, Junguk bent down and pulled Minho up by his collar. Vine immediately rushed towards them, her heart pounding for Minho's safety. She wrapped her arms around Minho, offering support to him. Jungkook's eyes bored into Minho's with a fierce intensity as he growled, How dare you? What made you do this? Minho glanced at Vine, his eyes struggling to stay open amidst the coursing through his. When Jungkook received no immediate response from Minho, he tightened on his collar, his voice dripping with menace as he demanded, Answer me. Minho winced in as he struggled to speak. She just told me she's gonna prank her boyfriend, but I did not know that it was you. His words came out strained. Hearing Minho's explanation, Jungkook's anger flared, his gaze shifting to Vine with burning intensity. Boyfriend, huh? He asked, his voice calm but carrying a menacing undertone. He left Minho and moved closer to Vine. Vine surged as she averted her gaze, her mouth opening but no words escaping as fear gripped her throat. Calling me your boyfriend? That's a dangerous game, his voice low and menacing. Vine's heart raced as she struggled to find her words. I did not mean it like that. Jungkook's expression remained stern as he interrupted her. His eyes bored into hers as he delivered his warnings. Listen carefully, he began, his voice low and menacing. Your playfulness can lead you to consequences far beyond your imagination. Playing games with me is not a joke. It can lead you to... Jungkook's voice dripped with menace as he delivered his final warning to her, his words laced with deadly intent. This is your final warning, he growled, his eyes flashing with a dangerous glint. Stop playing with me, because if you dare to cross me again, there will be no second chances. Next time, I won't hesitate to. Your life will be over in an instant. Her breath caught in her throat, her eyes wide with fear. With that final warning, Jungkook turned and walked away, leaving Vine shaken to her core. As Jungkook's figure disappeared from her sight, Vine's gaze shifted to Minho, her heart heavy with guilt. She knew she had to apologize, but she did not know where to begin. She reached out to grab his arm, offering her support, but Minho pushed her hands away abruptly. His expression was one of anger and disappointment. Minho, I'm really sorry, she began, her voice trembling with remorse. I did not know. What you did not know? Minho interrupted, his voice laced with frustration. You did not know he was a mafia. You thought he was just a charming boy. Vine flinched at his words, feeling the weight of his justified anger. She did not dare to speak further, knowing she had no excuse for her mistakes. With a heavy sigh, Minho turned away and left, leaving Vine alone with her overwhelming guilt. She knew she had caused him pain, and she did not know how to make things right. Vine returned home with a heavy heart, consumed by guilt, fear, and anger. She blamed herself for everything that happened, regretting her foolish actions. Her reckless actions had not only endangered herself but also her friend Minho. Upon reaching her room, she shut the door behind her and got into her bed. With trembling hands, she pulled the blanket tightly around her body. Her mind replayed the haunting warnings of Junguk, each word echoing in her ears like a relentless trumpet. The weight of his threats pressed down on her suffocating her with fear. Tears welled up in her eyes as she buried her face in the pillow, regretting her foolish action. For the past 5 days, Vine had become a prisoner in her own house, unwilling to face the outside world after the traumatic incident. During those long days of isolation, Vine made several attempts to contact Minho, hoping to mend their strained relationship, but every time he only rejected her calls. He was not only angry at her for dragging him into trouble, but also bewildered by her reckless decision to label a dangerous mafia as her boyfriend. He couldn't understand why she would take such a risk, putting not only herself but also those who are around her at risk. Despite his frustration, deep down Minho still cared about Vian, which made her actions even more confusing and hurtful to him. As Vian sat alone in her room, the weight of Minho's rejection added to her already heavy feelings of guilt and regret. She wished she could turn back time and undo the mistakes that led to this rift between them. But she knew that was impossible. All she could do now was wait and hope that someday Minho would forgive her. After a week of isolation, Vian finally mustered the courage to go out. Today, she decided to return to the office after taking a week-long break. However, the thought of facing Sana filled her with dread. She clearly remembered the scolding she received over the phone during their conversations, and the thought of facing her friend's anger in person only raised her fear. Vian approached Sana's table. Her gaze remained fixed on the computer screen until Vian spoke up. "Hi, Sana." "Oh, see who we have here? Welcome. Come, take a seat." Vian hesitantly settled into her chair. Before she could explain herself, Sana started talking. "So, what did you plan for today? Going on a romantic date with your mafia boyfriend?" "I'm sorry, I should have listened to you. What I did was wrong. I was foolish. But it's too late to realize. How could you drag Minho into all that, knowing how dangerous Junguk is? Why do you act so recklessly, Vian? Didn't I tell you that man is notorious? He has this ruthless reputation for a reason. He's not the charming prince you think he is." "Yes, I realize it now. I had lost my senses in stupid love. I was so foolish. Please forgive me," Vian pleaded, feeling the weight of her mistake. "Minho trusted you, Vian, and you betrayed that trust by putting him in danger without even considering how he would feel about it." A tear slipped down her cheeks as she shook her head, her regret evident in her every movement. She never meant to hurt Minho. "I'm really sorry. I really did not mean any of this to happen. I'm not the one to forgive you." "Yes, I will definitely apologize to him. I tried to talk to him, but he seems angry right now. I understand. His anger is justified. I'll make everything alright. I'll visit him today." "Okay, and I hope you learned your lesson now. That man could have one of you. I beg you, stay cautious for your own good." "Okay, I will," Vian replied, her voice filled with determination. In the evening after her work, Vian gathered some courage and made her way towards Minho's house. With each step, her heart pounded with anxiety. She feared how he would react. As she walked along the streets lost in thoughts, Vian felt someone following her. She looked back but saw no one. Shrugging it off, she continued walking only to feel the strange presence again. But soon she found herself being chased by 4 men. Fear gripped her heart as tears filled her eyes. She ran as fast as she could, but her legs betrayed her and she stumbled and fell to the ground. Overwhelmed by terror, she instantly fainted. When she regained her consciousness, she found herself tied to a chair, her senses reeling with fear and confusion. Panic gripped her as she realized she had been kidnapped. A wave of horror washed over her, sending chills down her spine and making her heart race. She was trapped in an unfamiliar place with no idea of. The door swung open abruptly, and Vian let out a piercing as a menacing figure entered the room. His presence sent shivers down her spine as he approached her with an evil grin plastered on his face. "Look who we have here." Vian's voice trembled as she asked, "Who are you?" He chuckled darkly before replying, "I'm your boyfriend's close friend." Confusion clouded Vian's mind as she said, "I don't have a boyfriend." Don't play with me. Please, you have got the wrong person. I don't know who you are talking about, Ryan pleaded. Ignoring her, he pulled out and aimed it at the chair, firing that shattered the chair's leg beneath her. Tears welled up in her eyes. He laughed at her distress before leaning in. Shall we call you a boyfriend now? Ryan turned her face away, refusing to meet his gaze as he dialed a number. Hello, Junguk. How are you, my dear friend? Mark sneered, his laughter filled with malice. Ryan tensed at the sound of Jungkook's name, her whole being overcome with goosebumps. Jungkook, she whispered. Jungkook's voice came through the phone dripping with danger. What the do you want, Mark? Mark laughed evilly in response. I definitely don't want anything from you right now, but someone who is so close to you is with me now. What the are you talking about? Jungkook's voice grew more menacing. Your sweet little girlfriend, Jungkook, Mark said. I don't have a girlfriend. Stop testing my patience if you don't want to end up in a world of... Jungkook warned dangerously, his voice filled with fury. With that, he ended the call, leaving Vine trembling with fear and uncertainty, her heart racing with fear. Mark's eyes darkened as he fixed his gaze on Vine. I know exactly how to handle him, he said, his voice laced with malice. If I do something to you, he will definitely come. He chuckled darkly, fear evident in Vine's eyes. Drawing his face closer to hers, he continued. And when he does, it'll be game over for both of you. She pleaded desperately, her voice shaking with fear. Please, you have got it all wrong. I'm not Jungkook's girlfriend. But Mark's evil grin only widened as he nearby and lit it. Ignoring her pleadings, he poured the tears streaming down her cheeks as she... But Mark showed no, laughter echoing the room as he continued his. Each drop off caused Vine. Why are you doing this? But Mark only chuckled darkly. I need Jungkook to come here. Jungkook was in the middle of his drink when he heard a notification sound from his phone. With a furrowed brow, he checked his phone and saw several videos from Mark. Quickly he opened the chat and played the first video. His expression darkened as he watched the videos from Mark. His anger surged as he witnessed Vine's terrified face and the... Without wasting another second, he grabbed his shirt and keys, hastily putting on his shirt as he hurried to his car. You have made a grave mistake, Mark. You're going to pay for every moment of fear she had endured because of you. He growled to himself, his voice low and dangerous. You're going to pay for every moment of pain you caused her. You're going to pay dearly. His grip tightened on the steering wheel, his knuckles turning white with rage. I'm not just coming for her, I'm coming for you. Jungkook stormed into Mark's mansion, his footsteps echoing ominously in the empty hall. As the bodyguards lunged towards him, he swiftly drew his and accurately. When he reached Mark, his eyes burned with fury. You heard her? He growled, his voice low and dangerous. That's for laying a hand on her. And that's for every moment of fear you have caused her, he declared, his voice cutting through the air like a knife. This is for all your sins, he said coldly, before pulling the last time. Mark fell to the ground. Ryan watched Jungkook's every move and trembled as she witnessed the unfold before her eyes. As Jungkook approached her to untie her ropes, her mind clouded with, Please don't hurt me, she pleaded, her voice trembling with fear. He kidnapped me and forced you to come here. Please let me go. I promise I'll never cross paths with you again. Jungkook's gaze turned icy as he met her eyes. You don't get to make that decision. You belong to me now. He whispered dangerously, sending chills down her spine. With that, he untied her from the chair